This chamber is not made from ceramic fiber blanket, even though it pretty much looks the same. This is soluble fiber blanket, so it's not ceramic fiber blanket. But what's the difference? Soluble fiber blanket is much better for your health. It's not as nasty as ceramic fiber. The dust, if you inhale it by accident, your body can basically break it down easier than ceramic fiber. And apparently it's also better for environment. So I always wanted to try it out. And as you can see, the temperature rating is 1200 degrees Celsius, which is similar to ceramic fiber blanket, though a little bit lower. And I have to say thank you to Witkas for sending me this blanket. I have bought materials from them before myself, but this one was provided for me free of charge. They also have ceramic fiber blanket, fire bricks, and all kinds of refractory materials. So I definitely check them out. It's a great source to get your fiber blankets and other refractory materials. So in this video we're gonna make a brand new metal melting chamber using this fiber blanket, and we'll test it out. Is it better than ceramic fiber? We shall see. I will also show you my current process of making these metal melting chambers. Whether it's using ceramic fiber blanket or soluble fiber blanket, the process is the same. And it's pretty much the same than in the original video, but there are a few differences or changes that I have made. You see, in the original video I was just talking about different options, different things you can do, but it doesn't mean you have to do them all. For example, boric acid is something that I don't use. I have in past, there have been times where it has been handy, but normally I don't use it because too much boric acid can be bad for your ceramic fiber. And I did kind of mention it in the original video by saying too much boric acid can be bad, but I didn't actually tell you why. Why? Because yeah, it can basically kind of eat away your ceramic fiber. So I don't normally use it, with exceptions when, you know, ceramic fiber is very soft. I have one kiln that I made a while ago where I needed to use it. I needed to harden those ceramic fiber walls because it wasn't round.
So it looks exactly like ceramic fiber. So I cut the end of the strip like a wedge and used a 3D printed cup for wrapping. And here I'm just counting the rings to know how old is the fiber. Just a little joke. After making the cut, I like to unwrap it and then wrap it again a bit tighter. One thing I do, the side that's more flat or the side that's gonna be the bottom, I just kind of hit it against the table. That way all the fibers are nice and flat. It saves you time on sanding and whatnot, so it's easier that way, that's for sure. And then I wrap it with a mighty Captain tape.
I have said it before and I'll say it again. Not all the Captain tapes are the same. You need to pay attention to long-term temperature resistance. They're not all the same. There's a perfect example right here. This chamber was made using an orange Captain tape, and I wrapped it with a green Captain tape as a decoration. The green one was not rated to withstand very high temperatures, and as you can see, it has molten, where the orange one is in a perfect condition.
I find it way easier to cut than ceramic fiber, and it's also easier on your knife. I like to wipe the Captain tape with some alcohol because sometimes there can be some dust from ceramic fiber, or in this case soluble fiber, that can prevent the tape from sticking to it.
This is one thing that I have changed in my chamber making process. In the original video, I used to remove the cup from the chamber before sanding it on top of the glass. It did work, but that meant that the hole was kind of closing again and I had to cut it open with a knife. These days I just leave the cup inside. It's way easier like that. I just sand it with a cup and I remove it afterwards and I don't touch the chamber again.
So this is just an ordinary water. In the original video I was talking about an option using boric acid solution, which was boric acid mixed with water. Now these days I don't use it because boric acid can actually harm your ceramic fiber, and I did say in the original video that there can be issues if you use too much, but I didn't go into details. So basically I don't use it unless it's necessary, which is very, very rarely. So I would say don't use it.
So now we can remove the cup. We will not sand the chamber again after removing it, at least not anytime soon. We can do it later once we have already used it for a few times. So make sure you're happy with the way it looks. I could sand a bit more to make sure it's all flat. For example, here it's not flat, the edges are not as sharp, but I just find it's a waste of time. I don't do it, basically. If you want, you can. It's good enough for me. So now we can just twist it and remove it. If at this stage you would decide to sand the bottom of the chamber again, the hole would close, so you would need to open it with a knife. That's why we will not sand it. You can do it later after using it to melt metal a few times, because it will all kind of harden and become, more stiff. But I will add a bit more insulation that will also help to keep the fiber wrapped, keep its shape basically. I'm gonna use this cup to cut a circle. There are little teeth in here, even though I did sand some of them. That said, you don't really need teeth. You can just cut this fiber with a plastic cup. It will work. It's quite easy. That was not the cleanest cut, to be honest.
Then I microwave dried it. Just be careful not to overheat the microwave. That can happen if you dry it for too long. You don't want to extract all the water because, yeah, microwaves don't like to run empty.
Next step is optional. If you have a blowtorch, you can use it to blowtorch these exposed fiber surfaces, and by doing so they will become a little bit more hard or firm. But that said, if you don't have a blowtorch, you don't have to go and get one. You can just skip this step. It won't matter too much. I'll use it because I have it.
Just remember to cut off any burned or charred Kapton tape to avoid arcing. So the only thing I use to cover the base and the bottom of the chamber is homemade kiln wash. Because it was very hot on my balcony, I just let the kiln wash to dry naturally and then I applied another layer. Or if you want, you can microwave it. This is another chamber that I made.
Now we're gonna make the base. I'll use 3 sheets. Usually I use between 3 and 4 if it's 25 millimeters. So that's 75 millimeters approximately. Sometimes I just put a chamber on top and I just cut it around. Other times I like to use whatever I can find around the house.
Or just use a 3D printed circle. I forgot to blowtorch the base, which is not a big deal. If there are any imperfections like lifted kiln wash, which sometimes happens when you microwave dry your kiln wash, or other issues, for example, you can see that there's a little gap between the chamber and the base. You know, I just don't care, because that can be fixed later. Once you start using your chamber and then you can resand it again and it's gonna be more flat. At this stage, just start using it and that's it. So I have heated up the crucible and now the chamber is ready to be used. First I was going to melt some aluminum, but to get most out of it, I thought I'll do some test casts. So this is translucent PLA and I just made a few molds out of plaster of Paris with sand. I tried different plasters and also different grit sand mixtures. So the first plaster I mixed was a bit too watery. I programmed my cycle timer to start the burnout at 3 o'clock in the morning. Then around 6:30 I removed the molten plastic and turned the mold around.
Okay, I'm gonna melt some scrap aluminum. So this is gonna be the very first time I'm gonna melt metal in this brand new chamber.
The mold had cracked in more than one place, so I didn't want to take any chances. No vacuum pulling today. Without the vacuum and with these sprues, the mold didn't fill completely. So I made 2 more molds, this is the third one. The mold did fill, but there are still some issues in the cast, so I'll need to make some changes. But that's not important.
So this is how the chamber looks like after melting aluminum 3 times. It's looking very, very good. There are a few cracks from the kiln wash, which is normal. You can see a slight dip, which is normal. It will happen, that's for sure. But it's looking very, very good.
So we know it can handle aluminum, but what about iron? I'm just gonna make this sand mold and I'll cast, well, you'll see what it is in a second. I'm gonna use the same crucible only because sometimes people ask me how easy it is to remove the metal from the crucible. And it depends, but most of the times it's pretty easy as long as you don't leave too much in the crucible. This time there was an issue.
So what happened? Well, after approximately, 23 minutes or so, I came to check on the microwave and I saw that there was a little spark or flame inside of the microwave. So I was like, wonder what's that? And then I saw that the top of the chamber was glowing all red. Then I opened the microwave and I had to think what I'm gonna do. I thought that there's a chance that maybe the iron was already molten and I didn't want to waste it. The mold I made, it was just a ridiculous simple thing. It was nothing important, so I thought I might as well just pour it. So I went to get a mold to the kitchen from the air fryer because I had to move the air fryer to the kitchen. Can't plug too many things in this extension cord. And then I thought I should change, but there was no time because I thought it's just gonna cool down. Because it's a little amount of metal and I have done it millions of times, I just poured it in my t-shirt. And as you could see, the metal was cold. It was pouring like jelly or something. Marmalade. Jam. That's what I was going to say. Jam. This had never happened to me before where the top of the chamber would burn like this. So I wasn't sure what was the reason until I looked inside. The chamber melted. There's a big hole in it.
So I made another chamber and tried again. I could see that there was an issue. Looks like soluble fiber can't handle iron.
Unfortunately, this is not a replacement for ceramic fiber blanket, at least if you're trying to melt iron. If you're only planning to melt aluminum, I think it will work pretty good. I would definitely use it instead of ceramic fiber. But iron, yeah, unfortunately, it's not gonna work. So what's next? Well, as you know, I have a new microwave, so I need to make bigger microwave kilns, and I'm gonna use this soluble fiber blanket because I don't run my kilns that hot, so it should work just fine. And I might even make a big metal melting chamber for aluminum. We'll see. I'll keep you updated.
Because the iron was too cold, the mold didn't fill. But that said, it will work. So this is just a little hanger where I hang my wire cutters.